Hi, Nancy.
Welcome to episode 99 of the Front Porch Book Club.
The Front Porch Book Club is a podcast that meets twice a month.
We like to dig deep into the relationship between characters and the worlds they live in.
Grab your book and iced tea and join us on the front porch.
I'll tell you, we are just cruising through the books lately. We're changing up our schedule to accommodate our special 100th episode retrospective, which is our next episode. So today we're forging ahead with Black Woods Blue Sky by Eowyn Ivey. One of our recent authors, Louise Erdrich, blurbed this book saying, Black Woods Blue Sky is a fable about what it is to love, a tale of longing, a call to renew our deepest bonds with the living world. It will draw you along like a fast-moving stream, and you will find yourself in places you have never been.
Yeah, this book is set in Alaska, where Birdie, which I love that. That's, you know, it's a nature name. Birdie is a 26-year-old mom, and she's trying to forge a life for herself and her 6-year-old daughter, Emaleen, in a small town. When Arthur, a local misfit who spends most of his time alone in his remote cabin, starts frequenting the roadside lodge where Birdie works as a waitress, they strike up an unlikely relationship. And then things get strange.
Yeah.
Warning, we're going to talk about this whole book. So if you don't want to know where this goes, you might want to stop and then read the book and come back and listen to this episode.
Yeah, things definitely get strange. I had a sense, I think just reading the blurbs and a brief synopsis, that this was not going to be a completely straightforward contemporary fiction book, but I didn't know exactly where it was going. So the quote from Louise Erdrich, she calls this book a fable. So as I was reading this, I was trying to figure out whether I thought it was a fable, a myth, or magic realism. And I think I fall more on the side of this book being either a myth or magic realism. I looked up these genre terms in Britannica.com. So according to Britannica.com, both fables and myths have personified animals or natural objects. Check. Because we do have this personified bear. However, fables often end with an explicit moral message. Myths, on the other hand, are less likely to have direct prescriptions for behavior and tend to be specific in time and place and context, whereas fables, time, place, context, usually not even referred to. It's just the tortoise and the hare. Mm-hmm. We don't know where the tortoise and the hare are. It doesn't matter. Then magic realism, this also fits because in that genre, fantastical or mythical elements are included in seemingly realistic fiction. But the reason I wasn't sure about that is because I always hear of magic realism being referred to almost exclusively as a Latin American genre.
Oh.
Or you might call this a folktale since it spins out the story of bears that have existed for a long time. In fact, one of the characters in the book, Sid, tells Emaleen, and I'm going to quote, "Peculiar how similar they are, the stories about bears, all down through the ages, berserkers and shapeshifters, wild sows taking in abandoned human babies and raising them as their own, women falling in love with boars, girls being abducted by bears and giving birth to their children in mountain caves, Russia, Europe, North America, Japan, again and again." And then he asks Emaleen, "Did you know there was a whole line of Danes who believed they were descendants of bears?" So in all these genres, the reader, though, does have to suspend disbelief because there is this personification of animals or fantastical elements. So I did, as I was reading along, kind of was thinking through these things. I was wondering if any of these labels resonate with you, or do you think they even matter at all to you as a reader?
I didn't know any about these things. At some point I thought tall tale maybe.
Okay.
I read it more like this really did happen. Like it wasn't so mystical. It was somebody who had trauma.
Of course you did.
I mean, I was just reading it for like, okay, here's the story, and this is what this little boy went through, and so he feels more comfortable in the wild, and he had a mom who she helped him along the best she could.
And what did you think about all the fur he was growing all over his body?
But he wasn't really growing it. It was somehow packed on him. Like she could get it off.
She could, but then it would grow back.
Oh, I don't remember that part of it.
Oh, okay.
I just feel like he was imprinted with the bear.
Mm-hmm.
Like, okay, this is how you walk. This is how you talk. So that was sort of an imprint. He felt more comfortable, snugged up. And he felt more comfortable not in someone's arms. He felt more comfortable outside rather than inside.
But then he becomes a bear.
Well, he still is a human.
Yeah, but he goes from being human to being bear. And then by the end, he's fully bear.
I think that was because it was winter.
But then when Emaleen comes back, he has been a bear for decades.
Yeah.
You just read it straight is what I'm getting.
I read it straight. There's a lot of people who are
like a hermit.
Yeah, a hermit. And you just don't need that many people around you. You're happy by yourself.
Uh-huh.
And I think he was just happier being himself, which was more living outside and eating berries. And
this is so interesting to me. Did you read the bear elements of the story almost as metaphorical?
No, I just read it as he's a bear.
Okay.
He's getting his bear on, you know?
Okay.
So I just read it as this is what was happening. I suspended all labels. So let me ask you, how did you read it?
I was willing to go there with the author, but it took me a while to figure out what I considered as these fantastical elements. Maybe for me, like I want to label them as fantastical elements and I want to figure out, is this a fable or a myth? You're just like, okay, he's a bear.
I didn't even know there were these labels, really. I mean, I know fiction, nonfiction, biography.
Well, I mean, you've heard of fables and myths.
Well, I guess I have.
Yeah, you have. You have. But
I guess.
But in the first chapter, I was definitely thinking, okay, she is establishing that we should be afraid of bears.
Really?
Oh, absolutely. In that first chapter, like a neon flashing sign, the woods can be a scary place, and bears especially are very unpredictable and scary creatures.
Well, this is Alaska.
It's Alaska.
I mean, you take your bear gun with you, you know.
Right. They might surprise you.
Yeah.
And there are the black bears, but he was a grizzly bear, even more fearsome. And also, the book is infused with a lot of references to magic, like the fairy rings in the forests. So very early on in the book, really, by the first chapter, she's established that Alaska is a different kind of place than we all might be living.
Okay.
And that people pass these stories to each other and down the generations.
Yeah.
Everyone takes these stories as, well, they might be true, but they might not be true, but better safe than sorry.
Yeah. Well, I just figured like we were just learning the culture of the people that were there, and I didn't look at it as a big setting the scene or anything. It was just like, okay, here's Alaska, here's the stories. All communities, all places where you live have those little stories.
Exactly. Well, that shows that she did it so well.
Well, yeah, because I was fooled. I didn't know she was laying the ground for all of this stuff. I wasn't thinking about that. I was like, the fairies.
The part of the book that I first thought, oh, wait, now we're getting to something that moves beyond people just telling stories, but something truly fantastic is happening here, was when Warren digs up that bear suit and drags it out. It's over 100 pounds, and he puts it on, and it's like a living thing. It's not just a dead pelt. It's like a living pelt because there's fat, there's muscle, there's veins. So he puts it on because he wants to know what it's like to be his son. That at first was very confusing to me. And then, of course, as the story goes on, you're like, oh, this is not Warren's strange little thing that he's doing. He is doing what Arthur literally does when he puts this suit on and off and becomes a bear. Was that confusing to you at first also? Or were you just like, oh, yeah, putting on a live bear suit? Yep.
There's the mauling of the friend, the way his ear is and the way he is in human life have the same thing. And that was sort of an aha, this is the same person.
So what was your take on Arthur?
He's left alone in the woods or wanders away. It's kind of hard to know what.
Well, his mom is right there because she tries to get him back from Warren. She is pacing around the cabin.
Okay, see, that is not how I read this.
Okay, how did you read it?
I read that he had a human mom and the human mom took off and they never really knew what happened to her. And so then the bear mom stepped in and then the bear mom raised him.
Okay, so you believe the story that Warren and Carol first thought that it was that young woman who lived alone in the cabin who would show up in town every once in a while. She was pregnant.
Yeah.
But then he went for a welfare check because he was a state patrol officer and she was no longer pregnant, but there was also no baby. And then she disappears.
Right.
And no one ever sees her again.
I thought what was happening there was that she left the baby. So you took it as that this was a bear.
Mm-hmm. This is a changeling. Yeah.
Really? Mm-hmm. So now when we meet with the author, we're going to have to ask her.
We will definitely have to ask her.
It never occurred to me that because he always said his first or second mom.
He was referring to the bear.
Oh.
He would say, I don't really remember any specific thing, but I remember warm fur. Things he was referring to, the feelings were feelings of his bear mom.
Yeah, now I can see why you think it was more of a I was thinking this as this child was somehow abandoned or whatever and lived with a bear for a while.
Yeah, more like a Jungle Book.
Yeah.
So I will ask again, what did you think about Arthur as a character?
I didn't feel sorry for him. And I don't think she wanted us to. There's certainly two completely different aspects of him. One is very social, kind, but then there's this wild side. He doesn't really connect very well with people anyway.
Right.
I guess my feel on him was that he found human love and it transformed him a bit, that he actually wanted to bond with someone and experience being a parent, and he knew how to be a parent because of the way he was parented by Mom 1 and 2. But we really weren't in his head much.
We never got in his head, no.
Yeah. So we were really looking at it more through Birdie and Emaleen and some of the townspeople than we were. And I think that was good because he is sort of a different kind of person. So I think he kind of remained removed and a little mysterious.
Definitely. I thought he was a tragic character, actually.
Did you feel sorry for him?
Maybe I did at the end, because I felt that he ultimately was unable to attain what he wanted. And that was, he really did want a life with Birdie and Emaleen. And in fact, he was willing to really starve himself and reject who he was in order to be the man he wanted to be for them. But it was impossible for him not to be who he truly was, which was a bear. That's tragic, that he could not become for love what he wanted to become.
Okay. And I took it as he really wanted to be a bear. He just wanted to be a bear. And there was a draw for Birdie and that life, but it really wasn't his comfort. He really wanted just to be out in the woods. I think part of him wanted that human connection, else he wouldn't have sought after her. He wouldn't care about his parents, but I don't know that he really cares about them so much. But he did care about Birdie.
And he was so kind and gentle with Emaleen.
For the most part.
Yeah.
But he was wild. I think he was happier out in the woods.
Yeah, like that was his true nature.
Yeah. And so I guess I didn't look at him as being so tragic. being in a fence maybe was tragic when he was caged.
Again, spoiler alert, he didn't want to kill Birdie.
Why do you think he killed her then?
He was unable to control his wild nature. And that is why when he's caged, he's just sad. Emaleen can see it. She's like, what's wrong with him? He's just laying there. He's just depressed.
Yeah, he might have felt a little bit bad about it.
Well, I think he did, because then he never turned back to a man. He decided, well, I'll just be a bear. I can never be a man again. It's funny. I think we read this book really differently.
Yeah. I mean, I did get that he was remorseful, but I think he liked being a bear.
So I thought one of the other really interesting characters in this book was Warren, Arthur's dad, who, when he thinks he's saving Arthur as a toddler and brings him home, he pretty quickly realizes that this child is not a normal child. Mm-hmm. And he would be happy to put the child in an institution, which one of the doctors suggests, whatever. He wishes he had never picked him up. But by then, his wife, Carol, has completely fallen in love with this baby.
Yeah.
And she is going to do everything she can to raise him, to defend him, basically give her life growing up. But Warren, get the feeling he is really never convinced that this is a good idea at all.
Yeah.
But he loves his wife so much. He's like, I can't take him away from her now because she is so completely committed to this half boy, half bear. He gets really uncomfortable when Arthur starts hanging around Birdie. It's like he doesn't think this is a good idea. Certainly when Birdie and Emaleen move to Arthur's cabin, he thinks when he drops them off that Birdie will see what's going on and she'll be like, yeah, I'm coming back with you on the plane. And then the next day he even flies in because he partially doesn't even expect Birdie and Emaleen to be alive. He just always has this foreboding that something tragic is going to happen. And eventually he is correct. Then he can't bring himself to shoot and kill his son either, and secretly keeps him in this cage for decades. Really complicated person. What did you think of Warren?
Yeah, I liked Warren and his wife. I completely understood where his wife was coming from. Like,
really?
Oh, yeah. Nope, he's mine. He's staying. You can go if you want. I'm staying here with this baby and I'm raising it.
Yeah.
You can be a part of it or not, but there's nothing. So I completely understood that. That did not seem out of the ordinary to me. I'll take you to every doctor. We'll figure things out. And I kept the little collar and I kept all the little things. Yeah, I completely bought into her 100%. A mom would do that. They're like, no, this one's mine. I'm responsible. Mm-hmm. Warren, though, I took Warren as that he really did love this boy and that he had that shadow of hope that Birdie's love could make a positive change. Mm-hmm. He had seen his wife pour herself into this child and teach the child to read and write and to walk around and live amongst people at least part of the time. So he was aware of what love and devotion could do. And he was doing well as a man. He was going to town more and he was interacting and opening up and all of that. So I think that there was fear, but that there was always hope. And I think love is hope.
Yeah.
He's in a difficult situation. And his wife's not around anymore. So, he's doing it all on his own. His girls are living in different states. He doesn't see them. He's happy to devote all his time to Arthur, too, to take him food and to keep the fence in place and to take care of his needs. He takes care of all of that. So he's devoted to him.
I don't know. I feel like it's a sad story, ultimately.
Really? I think it's sad for Warren. My heart goes out to him as the father who is responsible for this. And he can't leave his son to go live in the States with his other daughters because he has to take care of the bear.
One of the things that surprised me near the end of the book is we get to encounter Emaleen as a college grad. She's majored in botany, and it was Arthur who taught her all of the plants and their common names as well as their Latin names. I thought the story was going to end with Emaleen still as a little girl. So I was really happy to meet her as a young woman as she travels back to Alaska, where she has not been since her mom was killed, and meet some of these people that she's always heard about, like Mr. Warren and Della, who owned the Wolverine Lodge where her mom worked, and Sid, who's this academic character, but who, has escaped civilization and mostly just enjoys smoking pot and living in the woods.
Yeah.
One of the things I loved about this was that the author doesn't have Emaleen recognizing everything and everyone. She's only 6 when she leaves. And so there are a lot of things that she doesn't remember at all. There are some things that maybe the feel is kind of there. Some things look wrong to her. I thought that portrayal was just so realistic of trying to remember something from when you're so little, and your memory is not reliable in a lot of ways. But then there are these little twinges in the back of your head that are like, oh, wait, I didn't just dream that. That was real. And so she's trying to unpack all of this. Plus, her memory of Arthur becoming a bear. And of course, that can't be real. She's been in years of therapy. She knows that can't be real. But then here's Sid sitting there smoking pot saying, well, could be. And then she meets Warren and then ultimately Arthur as the bear. I just thought that was handled so beautifully. And I loved her as a young adult and what her life had become.
Yeah, I liked that part of the story too. And that her life continues on, and it is wonderful. She does okay.
Yeah, she's doing fine.
But Arthur and her experience with him does end up shaping her. And then she is able to get back to him at the end of his life in a way. I mean, they definitely recognize each other. Mm-hmm. In some ways, that parental role that he had with her seems more of a solid bond than what he had with Warren.
Yeah.
No, he's not going to hurt her. She's safe with him. And for some reason, Birdie was not. And I don't really get that, especially because at one point it does talk about bears sometimes eating their young. There's a story about that. There's always that shadow of, ooh,
what are you doing?
This is risky.
Right.
But she ends up being very safe with him. Mm-hmm. But she gives him a lot of distance too. And I don't know if Birdie would have. There seems to be some kind of respect there.
Yeah, I think that for Birdie, she wanted him to be human. And I think she wanted to have him be a certain way as her lover. Emaleen accepted Arthur for who he was in a way that her mom could not.
Yeah. Emaleen saw him actually change out of the bear.
Yeah.
So she has the secret. She's not sure what to do about it. I thought that was great. Very childlike. I don't know what I'm supposed to do. What would be the right thing to do? Do I tell my mom this or do I not? Here's the pros and cons from a child's perspective of what she should be doing. But do you think that Birdie knew and didn't want to see?
Well, in the book, it intimates that Birdie somehow knew and did not want to see it. But I thought, I don't know. It's a pretty big leap to think this guy you're in love with turns into a bear. I mean, I think Birdie was kind of a very practical, get things done kind of person. I think that's a pretty big leap to think that just because he's gone a lot, that it's not that he's just like a hermit, like you're saying. I think that would be the logical thing. You'd say, look, he just needs time alone. And he loves to be alone and outside. And yeah, maybe he does have another cabin somewhere and he loves us, but he can only take so much of us. Her thinking he turns into a bear, no, I think she was surprised. But you think she knew it.
I think that she had an inkling, like you said, something's not right. He comes back into bed and his mouth smells like there might be blood on it. There's bones underneath the bed. She takes him as he is, which is loving, but I think she looks the other way.
She is unwilling to put two and two together.
She's denying it. There's something very wild and off about him, and that's part of the attraction of this guy with her.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be attracted to him, but she is. She is attracted to that independent person that isn't really contributing in any way. I'd have been like, can't you like chop the wood today? Are you gonna be back for dinner? But there's a reason why he kills her. And I think there is something like she didn't respect it, or she was trying to appeal to his human side, and he wasn't wanting that right then and there. And Emaleen was giving him a lot of space and letting him be the bear.
Yeah, I think Birdie wanted to have the same relationship with him no matter what form he was in, and that was not possible. But I don't think Birdie was accepting of him. I think she wanted to tame that wild beast.
Yeah, there's something there that she connected to the human part of him.
As I said, as I was reading, I kept trying to figure out whether there was a moral to this story, or maybe moral isn't the right word because I don't think it's a fable, but is there a theme underlying this story? And I keep bouncing between don't expect someone to be who they're not.
I think that's a good one.
Because they're never going to change. Arthur's mom at one point says about Arthur to Warren, remember who he is. She knew who he was, and she knew that there were parts of him he could not change. And so then it makes me think, is an underlying theme that nature is stronger than nurture.
Oh.
Or neither parental nor romantic love can change someone no matter how much you think it can. People are who they are.
Well, I like the ones you came up with. There is a theme of love and commitment throughout the book and bonding, because Emaleen is bonded with Arthur. This man comes into her life when she's young. He teaches her to swim. He teaches her the plants. He is parenting her. That connection's strong. It is there. And that connection that Arthur has with his bear mom is very strong as well. And that's the thing that really won out in the end. I wasn't thinking of the nature nurture thing. That's an interesting component to think about now that you bring it up. What do you think Arthur gave Birdie and provided for her that she was willing to go and be with him?
I thought there were two places in the book that helped answer that question. He gave her two gifts no one else had ever given her. The tundra that he had brought from a place she dreamt about when she sat on that picnic table outside Wolverine Lodge and wondered what it would be like to be up on that side of that mountain. And he brought down tundra for her and showed her the beauty of it, because at first she just thought it was a clod of dead grass. But he's like, look closely. You can see the flowers. It's beautiful. So the care he had taken with that. And then the second thing that he gave her was time. When she complained that he could come and go as he pleased, he said, I'll take care of Emaleen. You can go for as long as you like. And no one had given her time. Those two things are clues that he saw her and understood her in a way she felt she had never been understood before. And remember, her mom had abandoned her and she had no relationship with her father. So she was raised by her grandparents. She meets this man who, though he's pretty unusual, he seems to understand her in a way no one else has. And I think that's what she found. And his consistency. Once he started coming to the lodge, he kept coming back. And so there was a promise of consistency and understanding that I think she had never experienced.
She didn't give up much to leave.
Yeah, she did not like her life.
So she's a waitress. She is working probably 40 hours a week. She returns to a little cabin and she's tired, and half the time she's drunk. She's not living a great life.
Right. And she says she can never figure out how she can ever get ahead. She has a car that needs a new transmission, but she cannot imagine any way that she could ever afford that.
It's pretty dismal.
Yeah.
And so you've got a guy that shows up, that shows interest in you. That looks pretty good. Mm-hmm. And having more freedom, like the freedom to kind of come and go and not have to work and be a waitress and live off the land. All of those seemed really good.
Yeah. And she was kind of a outdoorsy, rugged person. She felt like, living off the land, that seemed very appealing to her.
Yeah. There was nothing for her to go into that cabin and go, I'll make it a home. And she starts working hard, and then we need to chop wood. I'm going to go chop some wood. And
yeah, she was well equipped for that kind of life. She would have had a partner who would have been equally committed to helping her and sharing that load, but that was just never going to be Arthur.
And I think there was also a draw there for her daughter, to give her daughter a better life, because she realized that she was leaving her daughter by herself so that she could work. She wanted her daughter to have a better life too, and thought, maybe if we lived out in the middle of nowhere and I didn't have to work, she could grow up in the woods and it would be a better life for her than in this town.
Right. So overall, how did you like the book?
Oh, I liked it a lot. I mean, I poured through it. I was done the whole book in less than a week because I thought it was really good. I enjoyed it a lot.
I really enjoyed it. It's just for me, it just is such a different kind of book. And again, I guess I'm thinking about genre, but you think of our last book, The Storm We Made, based on real life happenings during World War II and war, and everything is very real. I loved Blackwood's Blue Sky because for me, it was mythical, magic realism, and allowing readers to go to a place that is a different way of seeing the world, a different way of interacting with what's real, what isn't real. I thought it was very, very interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, this is the kind of book I can definitely see recommending to people who, like, I was talking to a friend. She was like, you know what? I'm done with heroic World War II stories. This is the book she should read.
Yeah.
Because it's completely different from just everyday life kind of books. I really enjoyed that.
I liked being in Alaska.
Being in Alaska was great.
Yeah, the vividness of what Birdie was seeing and just how it is so pretty there, and the creeks that are running through the valleys, and
all the flora and fauna were so beautifully described.
The flowers, the having to walk up a mountain over the tree line.
It's a different life. Yeah, Warren flies a plane all over the place.
Yeah.
How else are you going to get around in Alaska? You're going to fly a plane.
Right. I'm really looking forward to meeting with our author and talking to her about the book and what inspired her to write it and what were her thoughts on Arthur and Birdie and all of that.
Yeah, so that'll be in 2 episodes, because our next episode that we will publish will be our 100th episode, Linny. And then we'll get back to Eowyn and talk about this book again. So she is actually a Pulitzer Prize finalist for her previous book, The Snow Child. So a very accomplished author, and exciting to have a chance to talk with her. Well, everyone, thanks for listening. If you enjoy the Front Porch Book Club, tell a friend and ask them to join us on the front porch too.
Our episodes come out twice a month, the first and third Wednesday of every month.
See you next time, Linny.
See you, Nance.